Good afternoon. Welcome to our August meeting of the Residents Association. As usual, we need to begin with the fire announcement. In the event the fire alarm sounds, please remain in the auditorium and stay seated. Should there need to evacuate a Springmore staff member, we'll direct you on how to leave in an orderly fashion. Please remember not to use elevators and to go to a red pole once outside. Also, please silence your cell phones. On this hot day, we appreciate your being here. I understand some of you from Creedmoor had reason to be here because the air conditioning's out there. But glad you are here. We have a few announcements before we get started. Peg Bedini wanted to have a few words on behalf of the Endowment Committee.
The first thing I would like to do is to express the thanks of the Endowment Committee to all of you who made a donation when we had our campaign. As you know, we collected a little over $58,000, which is really a wonderful thing. I am going to answer one question, however, that a resident asked me. A resident said, why should I contribute to that when you have almost $9 million in the fund? Everyone ought to realize that when you have an endowment committee, an endowment, you cannot use the principal. All you can use is the income that comes from the investment. And the income that we have received each year is not enough to cover the needs of those who need assistance. So that is the reason that we do this every year and do all the other activities that add to the principal, but we can't use it, but it does help grow the income. So I hope that clarifies that. The other thing I want to mention is we are having our annual indoor yard sale, September 5th, 6th, and 7th. This is Labor Day week, so Monday will be Labor Day. Tuesday will be the day that you bring anything and everything that you want to get rid of, other than books, clothes, or large pieces of furniture. We just can't handle those. But from 9 to 4 on the Tuesday, we will be accepting anything. And if you need assistance getting your materials here, Dave Waters is very helpful at South, and Elaine Gillespie, whose phone is 7044, will help you if you're at North or in the houses and villas. Wednesday is the sale, and I want you to know that every penny that we make goes to the endowment. There is nothing else that any of the money goes to. So please find your stuff. I've laughed over the years when I've done this because I've seen somebody buy something one year and the next year bring it back. But please do. The more we have, the more we can make. Thank you.
Thank you, Peg. Give us all an opportunity to do some house cleaning. I'd like now to call on John Rogers, who will make an announcement on behalf of our campaign to raise school supplies. John.
Thank you, Ellen. I'm representing the Health and Fitness Committee, and its Chairman Joe Donnelly. We work in support of Carrie Ritchie and her excellent staff in the fitness center. This year we've been tasked with managing the back-to-school program. Now, if those of you, or many of you are like me, think about the back-to-school program, it's kind of cool to buy a few pencils, throw them in the bin, and then you feel good about yourself. But it's more than that. The program is addressing a real need out there. For example, one of our partners, Lynn Road School, 40%, it is an official Title I school in North Carolina, which means that at least 40% of the population has to live at or below the poverty line. For a population like that, food security and money for food is a whole lot more important than pencils and paper. But yet the children still go to school, and they need those supplies while they're in school. Our other partner, Leadmine School, has 40 families who are in that kind of dire need. Again, food security is a bigger issue than pencils and paper, but yet they still go to school every day and need the wherewithal to get the work done. Then think about the teachers. We hire teachers, expect them to educate our children, but we don't pay them enough, and we don't give them enough money to do the job we've asked them to do. Many of them are digging into their own pockets, pulling out money to buy, again, the physical materials they need to conduct their classroom from day to day. So basically my role here is to encourage everybody who hasn't to contribute. There are many ways to do so. First, I want to make sure I thank everybody who has, because we've had, in the first week, a modest response, and it's kept Ellen and me busy running back and forth from the North Building to Carrie's office, stowing stuff. But we need more, and we'd like people to consider buying materials and donating them. Now, some of you may have mobility issues, can't get to the store to buy this stuff. We can help you with that. There are plenty of online resources. In addition, and Amazon particularly, they have gift cards, which would be very useful, but also they are selling kits for various sizes, and they're back-to-school kits that contain all the supplies necessary and asked for. You can go up, if you're mobile, you can go up to Harris Teeter, you can go to the dollar store, Target, Walmart, and they have sections entitled back-to-school stuff. So, and then for those who want to, there's your old friend Cash. We will gladly accept cash and do the shopping for you. Carrie and her staff will take it. Ellen or I'll take it and do the shopping for you and let you know that we and the schools appreciate it. This has till the end of, the 23rd of August to run, and so you've got time to both think about it and respond. So again, thanks to everybody who has contributed, and I'll thank in advance everybody who will. Are there any questions that I will stumble to answer? Otherwise,
One
yeah.
question, do you accept checks?
Cash, check, money order. Yes, Alan. As long as it's spendable, we'll take it. Thank you.
Make it out to who, John?
I'm sorry?
A check made it out to who then?
Springmore or Carrie Ritchie? I don't know which.
It'd be Carrie, Richie. We don't have it set up here to do it in Springmore, so it'd go to Carrie.
Good. Anything else?
Put in the memo that it's for
It's for
school
back to school. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, we'll hear from our director, Brandon. Your words of wisdom.
Well, thinking about what I was going to say, I don't have too much to talk about. I know have put a lot of stuff in writing recently, in memo and about different things coming up and where we're going in the next few months. So we'll talk more about that at our next Resident Association meeting when we present our budget. But as I was just hearing Mr. Rogers talk about the back to school event, and then knowing we have Rise Against Hunger, it's just kind of a really kind of feel good thing to know that we're doing good things to help people, helping young kids go back to school. It's amazing to think of this area where we live, and it seems so nice and prominent, but how many people are still struggle just to buy school supplies. And I wrote a little bit that about in my article, which kind of leads perfectly into what Mr. Rogers said. This is not the most affordable place to live anymore, and we have to pay our employees a competitive salary, which is the main portion of why the fee increase was more so than last year. We'll talk more about that. And just like Mr. Rogers said about paying teachers decent salaries. My wife was a school teacher for 10 years before we moved to Raleigh, and I couldn't pay her enough money to go back to teach these days. So she teaches preschool, and she loves it, so that satisfies her gift of caring for children. But teachers have a tough job, and you're right, they don't make near enough money. Have a lot of former teachers in here. Miss Peg, I'm sure she can talk about that, but it's a really great thing that we do that and to help these students. So, and it's amazing to think that they don't have, not enough money for school supplies, and then the ultimate poverty level of what we're going to hear about here. In a few minutes, Rise Against Hunger, people don't even have food to eat. So we take for granted a lot of things we have, and we're very fortunate to be able to provide for each other and provide for your families, and to be able to live at a place like Springmore. And there's a lot of people less fortunate than us. But the last thing I was going to say, I have met a lot of wonderful new residents over the past month. We have had a lot of move-ins. We've had over 20 move-ins in the past 3 months, and I have met a lot of wonderful people. I'm sure some of them are in here. I don't have my glasses, so I can't see, but I have just met some really great employees. It's always, new residents. It always amazes me how everyone says, "Oh, what a great place it is," and how friendly everybody is. And it's just that feeling you get when you come into Springmore. It's a unique, friendly, homey place, and it draws like people. And I'm very thankful for that. So, but I'll be here to hear the presentation. If you have any questions or anything afterwards, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. I'd like to recognize now Jim Epps, our Vice President for our program.
You can clap now. Thank you. Who said that? Well, good afternoon, folks. I need to correct something here. How many of you are from Creedmoor? Raise your hand. Well, now, I know these people came over here not because it was hot in Creedmoor. They came over here because they wanted to hear the program, right? Good. Thank you very much. I do want to add to what our leader said about teachers. My wife taught in Wake County for 23 years, and she had to expend a lot of money, too, for the expenses, for the children who needed supplies. So I made a little agreement with her. I had a full head of hair. It was very thick and dark and black. And I said, if you shave my head, then I will give you the money that I usually spend for a haircut. How many of you believe that story? For you on television, everybody raised their hand. No, I'm just kidding, of course. Today, our program is Rise Against Hunger. And I'm going to call on our chaplain, who is Justin Williamson, to introduce our speaker. Thank you. Come ahead, Justin.
Good afternoon. I had to think about what time of day it was for a second. Good afternoon. Well, I'm here to introduce our guest speakers for today, for the meeting. And they are from Rise Against Hunger. It's a local organization that has reach around the globe. They serve not only this area and the state, but they have a mission to help end hunger around the world. And so they are working with local organizations, individuals, as well as across the country and beyond to not only feed people, but help raise money to feed people. So this was, if I'm taking notes correctly, the third sales pitch you've gotten today, but it is an equally important one. I'm not sure that we're going to have the meal packaging event in about a month. I'm not sure how many times you can shave your head between now and then, so we might need more help than just Jim can provide. Our goal is to package 30,000 meals on September 15th here at Springmore. It's a feat that we have done before. It will be the 10th time that Springmore has come together to participate in such an event. And so it is not unprecedented. It's actually a lot of fun. So you'll be hearing a little bit more about the details. But our goal this year is to package 30,000 meals and to raise $20,000 that will go towards helping end hunger around the world. Let's see. And so all that to say, the speakers today are Darren Stover, who is the Regional Philanthropy Manager for Rise Against Hunger, as well as Jen Fuston, who is our Project Manager. And she's kind of helping us specifically as Springmore put the event on. And Darren's here to give even a little more broader context about Rise Against Hunger as well. So with no further ado.
Well, thanks. I guess I can throw all my notes out since Justin gave half my presentation. No, it's a pleasure to be here. Both Jen and I have been here several times in the past. I know I see a couple good friends in the room. I don't know why Phyllis Mayo decided to sit all the way in the back. I figured you'd be up in the front row trying to heckle me. But anyway, I appreciate it, Justin, for the introduction. I have teachers also in my family, and so I appreciate that you guys are doing those things to help kids. It's a tough time. It's a very tough time. So I'm behind you all the way on that as well. And I hope this won't be too much of a sales pitch. Like it was said, we also offer a little bit of fun. We offer a great experience, and I hope that that's a draw for you guys when it comes time to try and help us raise some money to do what we do. So I did want to give you some statistics. Justin said that you guys have packaged 10 times in the past with us, and that is true. And so Jen, when she gets up, she works in our Raleigh warehouse. She's one of the best hires I've ever made, and I'm surprised she's actually not my boss by this point, but ultimately she still works on more of the logistics side, and I do work more on the partnership side, the development team and whatnot. So we will be doing our 11th event on September 15th with Springmore, which is pretty amazing. A couple other statistics about that. The first event we ever did was back on September 29th, 2009. So is anybody that was here back then for that event, for that first one? Phyllis? Okay. Unfortunately, the last time we did an event with you guys was on November 1st of 2019. And so I don't think we need to reiterate the reasons for that. Obviously, we all know what the past 3 years have been like. And COVID has kept us from packaging meals with a lot of groups. Our output, our meal output in 2020 and in 2021 was about a third of the meals that we normally package and distribute around the world. 2022 got a little bit better. In 2023, we're finally feeling like we're getting a little bit more back to normal. So the organization as a whole was packaging about 60 to 65 million meals a year before COVID. And so hopefully we can continue to creep back towards that number and get to where we're doing even more. Springmore, in the 10 years that you guys have packaged meals, has packaged 417,384 servings that have been distributed around the world. I know that I was here. Yeah, absolutely, we should have a bigger round of applause than that. I know I was here. Phyllis indeed was the organizer for a lot of that. I mean, with some help for sure. So I know that I was here the last time because we gave her a little reward for all her efforts before she retired. So you guys have donated over that time roughly $120,000 to the efforts that we've made. And the meals that you've packaged, so we didn't start really tracking it like to the specific events where the meals went until about 2013. So you had a couple of events that I can't tell you exactly where they went, but most of our meals back then were going towards Haiti. But since then, I can tell you that we have shipped to 7 countries. So anybody that has put their hands in a bin of rice or weighed it or sealed it or boxed it up, your efforts have made a difference in 7 different countries around the world. Those are Dominican Republic, Haiti, Madagascar, Malawi, Mozambique, Nicaragua, and Zambia. So those are places that you guys have personally influenced over the last 14, 15 years. So I always think that that's pretty cool. As I said, COVID has been tough on us, and so we are so pleased that we feel comfortable enough, that you guys feel comfortable enough to have us back out, gathering large groups of people in confined spaces. Who knew it was a tough thing during some times? But I'm going to call Jen up here. So again, I ran the warehouse for close to 9 years. Her and Zach, who's probably also been here several times, they're now kind of in charge of that. And she's going to talk to you a little bit about the logistics for that event and the meals for that. And then she's going to call me back up here to give the third sales pitch for the day, right? So anyway, I'm going to welcome Jen up here to talk to you a little bit more about September 15th.
Thanks, Darren. Hi, Springmore. How's everybody doing today? Good. I understand some of you were forced to be here due to air conditioning, but I hope that you're happy to be here anyway, and that you get something out of this time together. My name is Jen. I've been with Rise Against Hunger since we were Stop Hunger Now. How many of you remember Stop Hunger Now? Okay, more hands. That's good. So Stop Hunger Now turned into Rise Against Hunger in about 2017. But the thing that drew me to Stop Hunger Now actually started back in 1995, way back in the 1900s, in the good olden days. I was actually 17 years old and getting ready to set out to Jamaica, not for a fun trip, much to my disappointment, but for a trip where I was going to go be working, painting, doing a little bit of educating, and just some kind of helpful things in the community where we're going to. Has anybody here ever been on a mission type trip before outside of the U.S.? A few hands. So you'll know what I'm talking about when I say when we got to the village that we were going to be helping out in, the children were beyond excited to see us pull into their community. When our van pulled up into our driveway, we were trailed by about a dozen children from the village who were just excited to have us there. And as soon as I stepped out of the van, I felt little arms around my leg. And remember, guys, I was 17 years old. I was the only child on this trip, other than the children in the village. And I was immediately taken with this 5-year-old little boy named KK. We became fast friends almost immediately that day, even to the point that later that night, that very first night that we were there, our group went to the local church so that they could welcome us into their community. And KK made eye contact with me the second he walked into that church, ran across the sanctuary, jumped into my lap, and fell fast asleep. This was nearly 30 years ago. And I am not exaggerating when I tell you guys that I can still feel the heat of that child on my legs. And I can still smell the sweat coming up off of his body from where he'd been playing with his friends that day. That's because of what happened next. KK didn't come to church alone. He obviously has parents who love and care about him. So his father had come with him. And immediately after seeing his child run to this stranger, his dad came right over, sat beside KK and I throughout the church service. KK stayed asleep throughout most of it. And it wasn't too long into the church service that KK's dad looked at me. And he looked back at KK, fast asleep in my lap. And he looked back at me. And he said, "Take him home with you." And I laughed. I laughed because this red hair is very much natural and it has the attitude behind it. So this was not the first time I'd heard those words. My parents, anytime I got unruly. Please take her home with you. Please take her home with you. So when I heard KK's dad say those words, I laughed until I heard it in my head again. Take him home with you. And guys, he wasn't joking. It wasn't a joke. He meant it. He really wanted me to bring his baby home with me. Because he knew that I, even a 17-year-old child, could provide more for his child here than he could there. And at that point in time, my whole life's trajectory changed, and I knew that I had to fix this problem. Because I knew that even if I could bring KK here and give him access to education, nutrition, would it even be the right thing to do? I don't know. But I do know that keeping him in a loving family, well supported, is probably a better way to go about it. KK's dad didn't say take him home with you because he didn't love him. He said take him home with you because he loved him that much. Obviously, that's not something I could do. Not something I could do at 17. Not something I can really do at 45. But what I can do is get an organization like Rise Against Hunger and a community like Springmore together, to partner together to create thousands of meals that we can then direct exactly where they need to go. And that's why I love communities like yours so much. You're doing work with local children and making sure that they have access to school supplies so that mom and dad can buy the food that they need to buy to make sure that those children have adequate nutrition as well. So well done, you guys. I want to talk very quickly, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Darren, just about the impact of these meals. If you take yourself back to the 1990s and turn on the news, it looked very different than it does today. But do any of you remember seeing like army trucks driving down the road, throwing out meals in the places that we serve meals to? Everybody kind of remembers that? That is not what we do. Our meals are very intentionally distributed. 20% of our meals go to emergency response. That is true. But 80% of our meals go into school feeding programs, because we know if we can leverage those meals with an education, we can really begin to end the cycle of poverty and hunger. How many parents do I have in this room? How many of you have children? Okay, all right. So take yourselves back to when they were children, and you're standing in your kitchen, and you open your cupboards, and there's nothing there. There's nothing there. But you know that a mile down the road at their school, they can get a meal. Where's your kid going to be? You're going to send them to school because then they can get a meal, right? Obviously. But that's not where we stop. We're going into all of these school programs also with agricultural training and tools, and we're growing farms, pulling our meals out and leaving behind thriving communities who are growing their own foods and self-reliant and self-sufficient. And that's because of the work that you guys have done. It starts with a meal, and it starts with you, but it leads to resilient communities. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for agreeing to do this project with us. We're really excited about September 15th and your event. Registration will be open and available soon to you guys, and Darren will probably talk a little more about that. Thank you.
It's my fault. I set my own self up to follow that. We talked this morning on the phone, and we said, Jen, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do some history stuff. You get up and tell the story, and then I'll get back up and finish it. And I should have just like let her finish up. I don't, dumb on my part. All right. But, it is important that, we are asking for money, okay? And I know that you guys get asked for money a lot. I know that we've already had 2 presentations asking for money already, just even today. And you guys have been so generous over time, that Is that me? Seriously? Is that somebody flashing that I only have like 5 minutes? Okay. With the Jim Valvano speech where like some guy's flashing a light at me like I'm going to get off, you know. No, we do want to talk about the business of this because it is important that we raise the money to do the meals that we package, okay? So 30,000 meals, we do those for 38 cents per meal. Okay. Now, if you think about that, you know, we had a campaign a couple of years ago where we were talking about like how the price of lunch for us one day would feed a child at school for literally a month. Okay. And so, you know, it is important that we think about, you know, the ask that we have. All right. The other thing that Jen mentioned is that we were founded in the 90s. This is our 25th anniversary year. Okay, so we are celebrating this year all that we have done, and we are celebrating the partners that we've done this with. And how cool is it that we're celebrating by asking you for more money, right? So, but ultimately, it's a big deal. You know, most organizations, most businesses don't make it 6 months or a year. You know, for us to be doing the things that we've done for this long and for the impact that we have made for so long, it's a cool thing to celebrate. And I do want to tell you about that, okay? And so, you know, when we sat down with Phyllis and Justin and Donna and Lori, and we started talking about like what kind of goal should we set for the impact that we want to have this year with Springmore, we did talk about a $20,000 goal. And that $20,000 goal will pay for us to package 30,000 meals here. All right? Now, raise your hand if you've done the meal packaging with us before. Oh, good. A lot of people. So you know that it's a good time. You know that we're going to come in and we're going to play some music and we're going to have fun. And you're going to see those boxes rolling out and rolling into the elevator, and they're going to end up down on our truck. And that's cool. So the additional money that we want to raise beyond what it takes to package 30,000 meals, we want that to support a big community event that we're doing in Raleigh. Rise Against Hunger was founded here. This is the cornerstone, the flagship warehouse, and Jen and I probably would agree the best warehouse we have in the country, which we have about 20 different locations all over the country. So even though we don't feed locally, we have locations that do what we do all over the United States. But here is where we started. Here is where we're headquartered. Here is where we have done the most meals. We've had the most events and the most volunteers and the most support. And so the flagship, the cornerstone of our celebration is going to be in Raleigh the weekend before Thanksgiving. So November 17th through the 19th, we are going to package 250,000 meals in 7 shifts at our warehouse over off of Gresham Lake Road. And so we need to fund those meals. So in order to have that kind of celebration, we need to fund those meals. Now, the celebration itself, we started talking about this late last year, and there were people on the development team that were talking about like, hey, let's do like a black tie gala and have a big, you know, rubber chicken dinner or something like that. And I just looked, I've been in this organization now for almost 10 years. I was like, if we don't celebrate with a big, huge, ginormous meal packaging event, then we're missing what we're here for. All right? Because we are here for engagement and volunteers and for impact. And it's not that the dollars wouldn't have made an impact, but we got to pull people in. Jen talked about what happens with the meals. We have 4 pathways to ending hunger. Okay? Nourishing lives, that's the meals going towards educational programs and school feeding programs. All right? Emergency response is something, you know, that we have to do. Like we have to stand people back up when a hurricane comes through. Or we've been able to send supplies to Ukrainian refugees. So anything like that, we have to stand people back up and help them regain their sustainability. Community empowerment, she talked about agricultural programs just briefly. That's the third part of what we do. We can't just feed people forever. We don't want to do these events forever. We want to get into a community, feed them, help them become sustainable, and then we want to leave and go to another community and let them sustain themselves. All right, and then the fourth one is always something that we recognize we can't do this alone, so we have to always be growing the movement to do this. And so what we talked about was we want this 25th anniversary to encompass all 4 of those pathways. Those are the things that we require to be successful in our mission. All right? And we had a big conversation about it during COVID, and the thing that we decided was that those were the things that were important for us to do before COVID, and they're still the important things for us to do. Those things haven't changed. All right? And so we wanted to make sure that we encompassed all 4 of those pathways when we celebrate 25 years. Okay? And so when you think about packaging 250,000 meals, those are going to go to school feeding programs and orphanages. Okay? Or they might be, some of those might be reserved for an emergency response situation. So we're going to touch those 2 pathways. And when you talk about community empowerment, when you talk about growing the movement, when I invite 1,500 people to come to our warehouse to see what we do and how we do it and why we do it, like, how is that not growing the movement? That is bringing people into the fold, and that is important. And then the community empowerment piece, like, that is something that just takes dollars. When we want to fund an agricultural program in a place, that just takes dollars. You guys may be better gardeners than I am, but we don't just send people over to help people garden. So we want to raise the money to do all of that, to do the meals, to incorporate community empowerment, agricultural programs, and then we want to bring people in to see what we're about. And so that's why we've set a goal of $20,000 for you guys to raise. Okay? Now, we're all going to do this through one registration site, so through one donation page. Not everybody does that. We do have the ability to take electronic payment through the registration site, and we'll distribute that, I'm guessing, through your systems. It's just events.riseagainsthunger.org/Springmore. And so people have the ability to register for the event. They'll have the ability to donate electronically through that directly to us. All right, but obviously we're also, we're like you. We'll take cash, check, money order. So we're the same way. So if you guys write checks and you guys wanted to distribute, get that to Springmore for us to pick up and deposit, we're happy to do that as well. But ultimately, I think it's amazing for us to think about that goal. Maybe $20,000 is not set high enough. If you guys want to have in the back of your mind a stretch goal of 25, that would certainly be appropriate, right, in our 25th year. So I just hope that you guys will carry the message forward with us. And I know that we have people that may be watching on closed circuit TV, but I hope you guys will carry the message forward with us and advocate for us as we get closer to the event in September. And I hope that you guys will all show up to participate on September 15th. And we'll also be inviting you guys to the big celebration in November as well. So I'm happy to take any questions, or Jen is happy to take any questions. Phyllis, what do you have a question for?
Describe what the day is like for people who've been there and done it.
What the day is like. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm picking on you. Phyllis is my friend. So the day the way that things have gone in the past, and it morphed a little bit over the years, but I think the last several times we did it was all pretty much the same thing. We come in early, and I understand we don't have the fire department this year, right? So we'll have some people that help us get set up in the room. What's the name of the room that we're in? The great room. Okay, so we'll be in the great room, and as people come in, I think we usually have about 40 to 50 people that can fit in that room. And there's various jobs that are involved in the process. We're basically setting up a little manufacturing plant inside the great room. We'll have some people that are depositing ingredients through the funnel into bags. Those bags will get moved down to weighers who will make sure that the weight of the bag is within a certain range. They'll be passed across the table to people that will heat seal those bags. And then in the back, they will get boxed up. As far as how the day goes, we kind of organize it into 4 shifts, but I think with Springmore, there's a lot of people that kind of stay over. There's some that go and come back. But ultimately, we want to try and, have it kind of broken out into 4 different shifts. I think 1.5 hour long shifts is what we have. Most of the jobs, we can have some people seated. There are some jobs where maybe people need to be able to stand up for a little while, but we always want to try to accommodate as much as we can with that. So did I do a good enough job? Is that it? And it will be here for, like I said, we'll be here for most of the day. We're probably going to start, I can't remember what we set the exact time. Was 10 o'clock maybe? Yeah, so we'll be setting up before 10, and then from 10 o'clock until probably close to 4, we'll be packaging 30,000 meals. Yeah, do you want me to tell that story? Okay, so my first year in Rise Against Hunger, my assistant was out here, and I don't remember, I guess it was in February, and he called me up, and he was like, it's snowing here, and Phyllis won't let me go home. So, I said, well, let them package a little bit longer. The roads aren't too bad yet. And so he called me again in like 30 minutes. He's like, Darren, I'm getting a little nervous here. Like, they want to hit their goal, their 50,000 meal goal. And I was like, all right, well, just give them a little bit more time, a little bit more. It's still like 2 o'clock, it's still not too bad. And then he called me back. He's like, she won't let me stop. So I was like, all right, well, can you put Phyllis on the phone with me? And I think I got on the phone and I said, Phyllis, like if all these meals tip over in a ditch on the way back to the warehouse, they will not get to Haiti. So she finally let him go home. And I think we ended up coming back a couple months later and finishing up those meals. But yeah, that was my first time working with you guys on the Rise Against Hunger end. So hopefully it won't be snowing on September 15th. So, yes, ma'am.
Are you a 501c organization?
We are a 501c3 organization. So anything that, would be tax deductible or, meet any kind of guidelines you have. So, yes, sir.
If anybody wants to have an idea of what it looks like, if you'll refer to this month's Herald, you will see that a young child was doing it, demonstrating to an older crowd how it could be done.
In the Durham Herald? Oh, an internal. Okay. Oh, sorry. The Springmore Herald. Okay. Cool. All right. So go look at the newspaper. Yes, sir.
We had the opportunity to do this with a group of elementary school kids in Waynesville, North Carolina, through Kiwanis Club. That we met with them, and there was one adult and I think 3 kids at every table, and it was really slick and the most fun we ever had doing it in the past. But those kids, and they started with second graders, I think it was, and through 6. And each team, every team could do just as well as another one. Doesn't matter if they were 6-year-olds or if they were nearly 12.
Yeah, I think one of our selling points is, that what we do is, it's not age dependent, it's not ability dependent. It's we can do this with all age groups. We can scale it from 10 people up to, I've seen 700 people in a gym doing this at one time. So it is fun. I got started doing this in 2005. The first ever meal packaging event happened at the warehouse right off of Gresham Lake Road, and my church was invited to be part of that first day, and I was blown away by it. And I volunteered for several years, and then they just talked me into coming on staff in 2014. So, all right, thank you guys so much. Look forward to seeing you in September.
Thank you, Darren, and thank you, Jen.
Jim, Justin and I will be at either door with flyers with all the information on them.
Okay, did everybody hear that? Okay, well, there will be these sheets that you can pick up from them at the doors as you leave. I've worked for the YMCA for 55 years here in Raleigh, the YMCA of the Triangle, and we have a We Build People campaign every year to collect funds that are used to provide scholarships for people who need the YMCA and who cannot afford it. So that means that over the years, I have heard so many stories about need. But Jen, I have never heard a story as impactful as yours. Would y'all agree with me? I mean, that got down as deep as it could get. Thank you so much.
I'm shocked she didn't break down crying.
Well, I think she had some of us ready. On behalf of the Springmore Residents Association, y'all stand up and come up here, please. I was not told that we were going to have two speakers. Come on up. And if I knew that we were going to have two speakers, I think what I'll do is I'll get one for you, Jen. I need to get your last name again, but on behalf of the Residents Association of the Springmore, I want to present to you Darren Stover, Rise Against Hunger, a presentation at Springmore Life Care Center, Monday, August 14, 2023. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Jen, I will get you one too.
I appreciate it.
Really.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Here, you might want to put that in here. Oh, okay. Is anybody, hold on just a minute.
Word about the next, Jim.
Oh, that's right. Are you going to do this? Okay, I was wondering. I need to tell you about the future programs, and I have them right here. The next program will be September the 11th, and it's time for our semi-annual business meeting. You know, we've had one, and this is the second one, and that will be September the 11th. On October the 9th, we will have what you need to know about hospice. A lot of people came to me and said, this is something that the group needs to know about here. So you have the opportunity to hear this message. And then November the 13th, here's one that I hope will just amaze you. We're going to have the James Webb Telescope presentation, and you won't believe what you will see when you come to that program, and and people to help us understand what we're looking at. So we've got 3 good programs yet to come, and I hope we'll see all of you here, plus more. Thank you. Thank you. They said to shake it up real good.
Now we have a drawing for our door prizes, and I'll ask Brandon if he'll pull out one.
All right,
Read the number loudly.
here we go. 777334.
Let Jim pull out the next one. Well, who is this? Are you new with us, sir? Congratulations.
And one more.
All right, here's the next one. 777338. All right.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. Thank you to our speakers. And the meeting is adjourned, and stay warm.